Welcome to the Whitwam Wealth Real Estate Podcast. Today's episode, The Great Real Estate Reset.
Welcome to the Whitwam Wealth Real Estate Podcast with Scott Whitwam, your blueprint to financial abundance. Settle in as we explore the mindset and methods for wealth building through real estate.
Welcome back. I'm Scott Whitwam. Today's show is The Great Real Estate Reset, why 2026 is creating more millionaires than the last decade. What if things that you thought you knew about real estate investing were reset? Not crashed, not broken, just a simple reset. Right now in 2026, we're living in the midst of a misunderstood and potentially profitable real estate environment. Probably one of the biggest change in modern history. The headlines may be confusing. Interest rates are far from stable. Prices in some markets have dipped, but they have not crashed as some gurus had predicted. In many markets, inventory has increased, with some investors remaining frozen while others are quietly buying everything that they can. And here's something that many investors don't realize. Every major real estate reset in history has created a new class of wealthy investors. The real question is, will you be one of them? Will you be one of the winners this time? Today, we're breaking down the great real estate reset of 2026. Who loses, who wins, how smart investors are positioning themselves right now. So, number one, I want to start with what is a real estate reset? So let's define what it is. We need to realize that a reset is not a crash. A crash is a sudden, large, emotional, and generally chaotic event. A reset is much slower, it's smaller, it's structural, it's strategic, and that's what we are seeing. From 2020 to 2022, real estate experienced one of the fastest price accelerations in history. Brought on obviously by COVID and the government's interjection of funds to try to stabilize the economy. We also experienced during that time low inflation, easy credit, low interest rates, interest rates below 3%. This created massive buying power. Buyers flooded the market and prices surged. Then in 2022, interest rates climbed rapidly, driving monthly payments for buyers up as much as 60%. That one single change reshaped everything. Not because people stopped needing houses, but because affordability changed. This created a locked-in scenario. Millions of homeowners were now locked in with 2.5% and 3% mortgages, unwilling to trade them for higher interest rates. Why would they? Why would you trade an $1,800 a month payment for a $3,200 a month payment? People wouldn't, and they didn't. The decision froze inventory. And frozen inventory completely changed the market. This reset, it crushed the real estate market for 4 years. Many of the brokerages' sales volumes dropped by 60%. The interesting occurrence was that prices failed to collapse. In fact, they continued to increase in most markets. Limited supply, cautious buyers caused the prices to continue to rise. But great opportunity for those who understand what is actually happening. So my second thing is to talk about who lost. Once we understand what the reset is, who loses in one of these resets? See, every reset creates winners and losers. So let's talk about the losers first, right? The biggest losers are the emotional investor, the ones waiting for another 2008 style crash. These are the same people who have been sitting on the sidelines for years, waiting and waiting and waiting, hoping to time the market perfectly, always predicting doom. Meanwhile, for buy and hold or short-term investors, rents keep rising and equity keeps growing. Another struggling group of investors is those who are over-leveraged flip investors. Also these investors, they are depending entirely on appreciation in order to make their flips work. But there's also the buy and hold appreciation investors. Instead of buying cash flow, they buy for potentially equity increases, and now they are feeling the pressure. And finally, the biggest losers are people who never acted at all, because the reset rewards action, not perfection. My number 3 is, who wins in a reset? If we know who the losers are, who are the winners? This is where things get a little exciting. See, I believe the biggest winners in 2026 will be the strategic investor. These investors understand opportunity increases with uncertainty. So when uncertainty increases, so do our opportunities. This is why. For the first one, competition is lower, right? Because there's a lot of people that uncertainty causes them to stall, so our competition is lower. The average real estate investor pauses out of fear. That means less competition and better negotiating positions for us, and better terms on our deals. Next, creative financing options have returned. A lot of them, after the reset started and interest rates went up, a lot of the creative financing guys really tightened their terms. But we are finding that there are assumable mortgages, there's lease options, there's seller financing, and subject to deals if you look for them. These strategies allow investors to acquire properties with better terms in a tough market. With millions of homes with low interest loans that can be assumed, we just got to dig and find them. Imagine buying a property today with yesterday's interest rates. That's a reset advantage. The third thing is, even though sales are down, rents remain strong. Housing demand remains. The population continues to grow, so that puts demand on housing. They may not all be buyers, but a good portion of them are renters. Construction has slowed, but pricing has kept supply consistent and constrained. That imbalance supports rental income. See, wise investors have turned to things like co-living to increase their returns. This means that real estate investors focused on cash flow and not just speculation are thriving. Fourth, appreciation remains driven by sound fundamentals. See, inflation, population growth, income growth, and affordable housing options all drive price. This is how investors who purchased after 2008 built massive wealth. They didn't do it by perfect timing, but by acting during uncertainty. Number 4, the hidden opportunity that most people miss. Okay, we have winners, we have losers, but here's the big opportunity most people miss. And it's not something I wish more investors, more guys out on YouTube, more guys coaching would talk about. This reset isn't just about acquiring properties. It's about building asset positions. Wealth in real estate isn't built, in the obvious moments. But by the time everybody starts talking about the fact that it's the best time to buy, then the greatest opportunities are already waning. Once people start bragging and hyping the market, everybody and their brother will consider themselves a real estate investing expert. We saw it, in 2014. We've seen it, in other cycles too. In 2020 and 2021, everybody who had bought an investment property was all of a sudden claiming to be an expert. They knew exactly what to do. The investors who win now in 2026 will be best positioned for the next few years. When momentum returns, the people who have already owned these assets will benefit the most. Not the people waiting to feel comfortable to buy the assets. See, comfort is expensive when you're investing in real estate. So my 5th point here now is smart investors are positioning right now. Okay, they're not waiting. They've been already out evaluating, purchasing, acquiring, keeping the best deals, holding on to them, looking more long-term for when the buyers return. So what are smart investors doing right now? They're focusing on fundamentals. Things like positive cash flow, buying good locations, leveraging strong rental demand, pivoting to co-living and maximizing rental values, looking harder for highly motivated sellers, negotiating harder and leveraging creative deals, thinking longer term, buying assets that make sense today. If flipping and lower revenue expectations exist, then you've got to be more creative, and not praying that some of these deals that would have worked, 5 years ago make sense tomorrow. And most importantly, smart investors are staying in the game. The more active you are, the more deals you see. The more deals you see, the more options you have, the better decisions you can make, and the faster wealth can compound for you. So let me wrap up with this. The great real estate reset of 2026 isn't a disaster. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to filter out some of these deals, to separate emotional investors from the strategic investors, speculators from wealth builders, observers from owners. The question isn't whether opportunity exists, because it does. The real question is whether you'll recognize it. If you found any value in today's episode, I invite you to subscribe, leave us a review, share this with another investor who could use to hear it. That's all for this episode. Thanks for joining this episode of the Whitwam Wealth Real Estate Podcast. Be sure to check out our previous episodes on related real estate investing topics. I'm glad you're part of our growing real estate community. You can always find the Whitwam Wealth Real Estate Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you enjoy listening to podcasts. This is Scott Whitwam. Be sure to join me on our next episode of the Whitwam Wealth Real Estate Podcast, where we're wealth building through real estate.